The wind howled like a wounded animal as Lena parked her car at the end of the long, winding driveway leading to Blackwood Manor. The mansion loomed ahead, its silhouette jagged against the stormy sky, windows like dark eyes watching her approach. Rain lashed against her windshield, and thunder rumbled ominously in the distance. "Are you sure about this?" Mark asked from the passenger seat, his voice tinged with skepticism. He glanced nervously at the looming structure. "I mean, we could just write about it without actually going inside." Lena turned to him, her heart racing with excitement and fear. "This is exactly what I need for my article. The history of this place is fascinating. People have disappeared here, Mark. We can't just ignore that." With a reluctant sigh, Mark unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped into the downpour. The cold rain soaked through his jacket almost instantly as he followed Lena toward the entrance. She pulled out her flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. As they approached the massive oak door, Lena felt an unsettling chill creep up her spine. She hesitated for a moment before pushing it open with a loud creak that echoed through the empty halls like a ghostly wail. Inside, dust motes danced in the narrow beam of light as they stepped into a grand foyer adorned with faded portraits of long-dead residents. The air was thick with mildew and something else, something that felt alive. "Let's split up," she suggested eagerly. "I'll check upstairs while you look around down here." Together, Mark insisted firmly. "We stick together." Reluctantly agreeing, they ventured deeper into Blackwood Manor. Each step seemed to amplify their anxiety. Every creak of floorboards resonated like a warning bell in their ears. As they explored room after room filled with broken furniture and peeling wallpaper, Lena couldn't shake off the feeling that they were not alone. The temperature dropped suddenly as they entered what appeared to be a library. Books lay scattered across the floor as if someone had frantically searched for something. "Look at this," she said excitedly, picking up an old leather-bound diary from beneath a pile of debris. Its pages were yellowed and brittle, but she could still make out words scrawled in elegant handwriting, words filled with anguish and despair. Mark peered over her shoulder as she read aloud. "They betrayed me. I will not rest until they pay." A gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlight momentarily before it flickered back to life. In that brief darkness, Lena thought she heard a whisper, a soft voice calling her name. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her pulse quickening. Mark shook his head dismissively, but stepped closer to her side as if drawn by an unseen force. "I think we should leave," he urged quietly. But Lena was already entranced by the diary's contents, a dark history unfolding before her eyes. Chapter 2. The Diary's Secrets. Lena flipped through the diary's pages, revealing snippets of a life filled with betrayal and sorrow. The entry spoke of Eleanor Blackwood, the last resident of the manor, who had been wronged by those closest to her, a husband who had taken another lover, and friends who had turned their backs when she needed them most. "Look at this," Lena said, pointing to a passage dated just days before Eleanor's disappearance. "I can feel them closing in on me. They think I'm weak because I'm alone now. But they will see. I have power beyond their understanding." Mark frowned as he scanned the room nervously. "This is creepy, Lena. We shouldn't be here." Ignoring him, Lena continued reading until she reached an entry that sent chills down her spine. "Tonight is the night I reclaim what is mine." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from somewhere deep within the mansion, a sound so jarring it made them both jump. "What was that?" Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Lena replied, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "But we have to check it out." Chapter 3. Into the Darkness. They moved cautiously toward the source of the noise, their flashlights flickering as if struggling against an unseen force. The hallway stretched before them like a dark tunnel. Shadows danced along the walls as they passed portraits that seemed to follow their movements with hollow eyes. As they approached a door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar, the air grew colder still. Lena pushed it open slowly, revealing what appeared to be an old parlor filled with broken furniture and shattered glass. In one corner stood an ornate mirror, its surface clouded with age, but still reflecting their anxious faces. As Lena stepped closer to examine it, she caught sight of something moving behind them in the reflection, a fleeting shadow that vanished when she turned around. "Did you see that?" she gasped. Mark looked pale, but shook his head again. "It's just your imagination." But Lena wasn't convinced. She felt an inexplicable pull toward the mirror and reached out to touch its surface. As her fingers brushed against it, a wave of energy surged through her body, an overwhelming sensation of sorrow mixed with rage. Suddenly, Mark grabbed her arm tightly. "We need to go, now." Before she could protest, he pulled her back into the hallway just as another loud crash echoed behind them, this time closer and more menacing. Chapter 4. The Unraveling. They stumbled backward into another room, a dining area where dust-covered plates lay scattered across a long table set for dinner long ago. A chilling realization washed over them. It was as if time had stopped in this house. No one had touched these belongings since Eleanor vanished. "What do you think happened here?" Mark asked nervously as he scanned their surroundings. "I think Eleanor was betrayed," Lena replied thoughtfully. "And now she's seeking revenge." Just then, they heard soft whispers echoing around them, words indistinct, yet filled with palpable anger and sorrow. "Lena," one voice called softly. She froze in place as dread washed over her. "Did you hear that?" Mark nodded slowly, but looked increasingly uneasy. "We need to leave, please." Before Lena could respond, a loud bang resonated from above them, the sound of something heavy falling onto the floorboards above their heads. "We should check it out," she insisted despite Mark's protests. As they climbed creaking stairs leading up to the second floor, each step felt heavier than the last, like they were being weighed down by unseen forces urging them to turn back. Chapter 5. Confrontation. At the top of the stairs stood another door, this one slightly ajar as well, but unlike others they'd encountered so far. This one emanated an eerie glow from within. Lena pushed it open cautiously and gasped at what lay inside. An expansive bedroom filled with antique furniture draped in white sheets. Sunlight streamed through cracked windows, casting ghostly patterns across dusty floors. In front of them stood Eleanor's spirit, a translucent figure dressed in a flowing white gown that seemed to shimmer despite its tattered edges. Her face bore an expression of deep sadness mixed with fury. Eyes darkened by betrayal glinted under spectral light. "Why have you come?" Eleanor's voice echoed through the room like wind rustling leaves on a stormy night. Lena took a step forward despite Mark's desperate grip on her arm. "We want to know what happened to you." Eleanor's gaze shifted toward Mark, a flicker of recognition sparking within those hollow depths before returning focus on Lena alone. "You seek answers? You must understand betrayal runs deep." Chapter 6. The Truth Revealed. With those words hanging heavy in the air, visions flooded Lena's mind. Images of Eleanor's life playing out like scenes from an old film reel. Laughter shared over candlelit dinners turned sour by whispers behind closed doors. Love transformed into hatred when betrayal struck hard. Friends who became foes when greed took hold. Lena gasped as she witnessed Eleanor's final moments. The night everything changed forever. The night she was betrayed by those who claimed to care for her most. "No!" Mark shouted suddenly, as if awakening from some trance-like state he hadn't realized he'd fallen into. "This isn't right." Eleanor turned toward him slowly. Anger flickered across her ethereal features, like lightning illuminating dark clouds above them, her voice rising in intensity. "They took everything from me. My life, my love, my very soul. And now you stand here uninvited." The room trembled around them. Shadows twisted along walls, like serpents ready to strike. Chapter 7. A Fight for Survival. "Lena," Mark yelled desperately as he pulled her back toward safety. But Eleanor's spirit surged forward with terrifying speed. Lena felt herself being drawn toward Eleanor against her will, a magnetic pull binding them together, and suddenly found herself standing face to face with rage incarnate. "You must choose," Eleanor cried out amidst swirling shadows closing in around them both. "Join me or suffer their fate." In that moment of terror-filled clarity, Lena understood what needed doing. She couldn't let this spirit continue its wrath upon innocent souls. "No," she shouted defiantly. "You don't have to do this." Eleanor paused momentarily, confusion crossing her spectral features. But then rage returned tenfold. "You know nothing." In desperation, Lena reached deep within herself, searching for strength she didn't know existed. "You're not alone," she cried out. "You can find peace. Let go." Chapter 8. Breaking Free. The air crackled with energy, a battle raging between light and darkness, as both women stood locked in struggle. Shadows writhed around them while echoes of past betrayals reverberated throughout Blackwood Manor. But then something shifted within Eleanor's gaze, the flicker of humanity breaking free from centuries-old chains binding her spirit. I. With one final surge, the darkness began receding, the shadows dissipating into nothingness as light enveloped both women. And then silence fell upon Blackwood Manor once more. Chapter 9. Aftermath. When Lena opened her eyes again, the room was empty. The oppressive weight lifted from her shoulders. Mark stood nearby, staring wide-eyed at what remained. The remnants left behind by centuries' worth of pain now transformed into something beautiful. "She's gone," he whispered incredulously. "Yes," Lena replied softly, feeling tears prick at corners of her eyes. Though haunted memories lingered, they were no longer shackled by vengeance. Epilogue. Whispers remain. As they left Blackwood Manor behind, its silhouette fading into misty twilight, they knew they'd carry echoes from this night forevermore. And though whispers may linger on winds carrying tales untold, they also understood hope remains alive even amidst darkness.